is creative. A creative life requires bravery and action, honesty and hard work. We are here to support you, celebrate with you, and encourage you to make the things you love. We believe in giving a damn. We believe in the power of community. We believe in face-to-face connections, in learning from others, in hugs and high fives. We bring together people who are driven by passion and purpose, confident that they inspire one another and inspire change in our neighborhoods and cities around the world. Everyone is welcome.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. I always like to say Creative Mornings is you get together with friends that you just haven't met yet. So we are going to change that a little bit. As you know, one of my favorite things is to host a little creative activity that makes everyone just a little bit uncomfortable. We're doing that now. So in the spirit of talking to friends you just haven't met yet, I am going to ask you, please listen first before you start. These instructions are very important. I want you to turn to a person, I would say typically who you don't know yet, but knowing most of you, you're sitting next to your loved ones and friends you haven't seen, so I get it. Turn to a person you didn't come here with, and you're gonna have 2 minutes, 1 minute each, I'll have my little gongy, to talk to the other person and find a common thread between you. This could be a hobby, a favorite color, a meal, a country you have traveled to, a country you would love to travel to. See if you can find something really weird other than same hair color. All right, so how long does each person have?
1 minute.
There you go. You got it. Okay. Turn around, back, forth, behind, sideways, and if there's no one, get up and talk. Yeah, go. You actually did it. I love that. Okay. Who would like to share a common thread with a person that ideally they are not married to or have been friends with since kindergarten? Jonathan.
Restoration.
No way.
This young lady behind us.
Bree.
Restores vintage clothing, and my wife and I restore houses. So it's incredible.
Oh, I love that. Great. For those who don't know, Bree runs Juniper Lane in Stanton, and is the program still open?
It is not. Sorry.
Never mind. Okay. Anyone else? A common thread? Yes, please.
Transplants. Artist transplants.
Oh, okay. I love that. Great. One more. Zach.
Jay and I both have family in West Virginia, so we're probably cousins.
Cool. No judgment. Okay. Wonderful. So, as I mentioned before, the theme this month is thread. And a thread is all the fibers and a lot of what we wear. And I remember during some of our early Creative Mornings, I was like, how many fiber artists are there in this community? It's amazing. A lot of you work with threads, which I had no idea about. If you feel compelled, we did attempt a community macrame. Thank you. I may not know much about macrame, so you didn't see me over there, but if that's your thing, please have at it. I also want to take this opportunity for everyone to just take a deep breath and remember our speaker V. For those of you who were able to join us in August at Sunset Park, V was our speaker on the topic of reflection. Sadly, V passed away a few days ago due to her terminal illness, and I just want to create space for us to remember her and cherish what she brought to this community. And even though she's not with us here anymore, she is still part of this thread that keeps this community together, and she will forever remain part of this community. Thank you. So, with this being said, you are about to meet the people who will share the stage today, so to speak. But I do want to give a short introduction to these wonderful people. First, we have Patt Eagan, who couldn't wait to turn 21 so he could officially join the winemaking industry, which he did promptly. But he's also a musician and singer-songwriter. I tried to get him to play for us this morning, but since I don't see a guitar, I don't think that's happening. But you can find Patt Eagan on Spotify and listen to his album and see the music. Or you can just come to Commonwealth Crush and enjoy great wine. I figured 9:30 is a little early on a Friday, but if you guys just want to hang around or come back later today, I think you absolutely should. Also, we have Roshi over there, one of our speakers. She got a degree from VCU, a program that I don't want to butcher, but then she moved to Austin and was one of the people who put the street art scene on the map in Austin, and she helped curate events and shows, and I guess doing kind of this, but probably in a much cooler, much larger scale than we do. So I'm really glad you're here. And then luckily for us, Roshi moved back to Virginia to raise her family closer to nature, joined Commonwealth Crush, and here makes sure that everyone who comes here has an absolutely outstanding experience, which I think she does a great job at. And last but not least, we have Ben, our third speaker today. Ben actually began his career in Sonoma County and then returned to Virginia and worked as a winemaker at Burley Mountain Vineyards, and actually too many other places for me to remember and count all out, but maybe he will tell us more about that. He is also a graduate of Duke University, and he has an MFA in playwriting from Carnegie Mellon, which I think is super intriguing. So, with that, please a big round of applause to all three speakers. I'm asking you to join us. And there's like the two best seats in the house right here, so if anyone would like to come sit, please do. Pat, please tell us where we are and take it away.
Perfect. Thank you. What a way to do my first Creative Mornings here. It's exciting. Thank you all for being here, and thank you, Annika and the team, for having or for choosing Commonwealth Crush to host you for this month's talk. And so as we went over, we'll be doing things, I guess, a little bit differently. As I understand it, typically there's a single speaker. We'll be splitting up into 3 5-minute talks, but Ben, Roshi, and I each will be following kind of the same structure. So where we were before the wine industry, a little bit about us, and then the second part will be what inspired us to get into the wine industry in the first place, and then ultimately the creativity that we feel like how we imbue this place with ourselves, our own unique creativity. And I should say for context, this is such a fitting theme for Commonwealth Crush, because this is a place, it's not just our wines that are produced here, Commonwealth Crush branded wines. Actually, that's in about only 10% of what we do. Most of our production is other winemakers, some a bit larger, some very, very small, brand new. We had about 20 different brands within the facility this past year. So Commonwealth Crush in and of itself is this interesting mosaic of different creatives under one roof, this different patchwork, if you will, for the theme of today. So much is threaded together that we stand for here, and it is a place of collaboration and community. And so just to say, with that in mind, because this really is, there was so much to talk about today, and it was hard to pare it all down, frankly. But so from my perspective, so I'm one of the co-founders here at CWC, originally from Maryland, and grew up in a very creative family. As Annika mentioned, I'm a musician and was that way for as long as I can remember, writing music. And so naturally, getting into college, I assumed that would be my path. I would take my music classes, major in music, and would pursue something professionally in music thereafter. And went to University of Richmond, and so it's kind of this mix of, they have the business school, but then also the core liberal arts and the music program, and a whole swath of different things to choose from. And I got there, and I didn't give any thought to the business side. But all of a sudden, my new hallmates and new friends, some of these guys were laser focused on coming in for accounting or finance or marketing. I was like, oh, maybe I should look more into this. But for me, and what I have since come to know was a misconception, was that if I pursued anything in business, that would mean giving up some part of my creative self, or it would be sacrificing or having to set aside. But as I got to learn more, I was like, maybe I should give this a try. And so I got into my business classes, ended up really enjoying them, and fast forward to junior year when I studied abroad, caught up with my French cousins, operate a small winery a few hours outside of Paris. And even though this was part of the collective family history, and I knew it was there my whole life and saw them, they were over in the US, it didn't really click that this could be an industry that I could pursue or that might be applicable to me as a kid who grew up in Maryland and now going to school in Virginia. And I recall it was almost this magnetic feeling spending that week with them. And like, I don't know why, but I'm very, very drawn to this industry. And in retrospect, I think it was because it was scratching the itch for left brain, right brain, this innately creative self, this musician that I was my whole life, also now paired with this business fundamental understanding, just starting in undergrad. And so I came back to Virginia. I was like, well, this is great. I think I found my passion. But I'm in Virginia, and what do? Because I had no idea that we had the wine industry that we did. And so was quickly disabused of that notion that Virginia was not a place to pursue wine, and quite to the contrary, fell in love with the idea that I could be a part of this burgeoning industry and kind of imbue it with a part of myself, part of my creative pursuit. And so ultimately, after graduation, took a job with Early Mountain Vineyards, is where I met Ben eventually, and saw all aspects of the business, from the winemaking to the more granular kind of the strategy and distribution. And then come grad school time, leaned further into the business side at UVA at Darden, and when we started hatching the plan for Commonwealth Crush. And so all of this, all of this is to say, as I stand here today as mostly on the side of our business, the strategy and operations and kind of a handful of other things, wearing different hats every day, I reflect on certainly that undergrad kid that I was initially thinking, business is not creative, I'm creative. Therefore I will not pursue business. And realizing now that actually I couldn't have been more wrong in that understanding business fundamentals and now my training, as a lifelong creative, I feel like it's actually empowered me to construct a life around the things that I love in a way that becomes economically viable, that becomes sustainable over the long run, and I don't have to bifurcate my life into something that I do for work and then something that I do for fun or for pleasure. And then also, it's dawned to me as we've gotten further into the growth of Commonwealth Crush that there's actually something innately creative, or much that is innately creative about growing a business and putting all of those pieces together. And it dawns on me that it's actually kind of like songwriting. So you start with an idea, suddenly that lands on the page, it materializes as notes on the guitar and lyrics to be sung, and it becomes more and more complex. You're layering in new instruments, and suddenly you have this almost like orchestral sort of experience. And business is actually my time now with Commonwealth Crush. That's what it feels like in many ways. It started with a concept, then the physical space evolves, the team comes in, and it becomes more complex and more layered over time, and it feels like almost this canvas that you're working on through the medium of business. And so lastly, I think when I consider then the common thread at Commonwealth Crush, so all these individuals coming together, how we're all deploying our own creative selves, I think to the growth of this company and this place, it's also that reflection that when you look around the wine industry at large, not just here at Commonwealth Crush, but it is such an interesting combination of people from all walks of life, from all backgrounds, and yet all brought together with the common thread of this passion for fermented grape juice, of all things. And it is where when you boil it down to that, you're like, man, this is wild. But it is there is something so unifying in the simplicity of that. And sometimes it almost, you like kind of have to shrug your shoulders. I don't know. We love it. And it does draw so many in. And I'm so proud and excited by when I look across our own team and the variation in backgrounds and expertise and creative drive that is brought to this place, and I think ultimately makes it what it is. But with that, I will hand it over to Roshi.
Wow, why hello. I'm Roshi. This is a little tricky to start. I'm not used to being in this space with everyone kind of looking at me. I'm usually over there. So do I have any anime fans in the room? Yeah, my people. Okay, so in anime there is well, it's not in anime, but that's how I learned about it. But there is a Japanese myth or belief that everyone has an Aki Ito, which is a red string of destiny or fate. that's tied to their finger, and then that string is tied to someone else. And throughout time, I feel like I've kind of thought about that. It's really beautiful, it's really poetic to imagine that your destiny is tied to someone else, and I actually have a tattoo of it. It is tied to someone else. But this thread that pulls us through life, and we kind of are inspired to chase after different things that inspire us and move us. I think it's really interesting to, excuse me, I'm gonna get a little emotional. Let me go back. So my string brought me here to Stanton, and it brought me at a time where I was pregnant, and I was leaving behind a beautiful, beautiful community in Austin that had embraced me and helped me grow. And my string was tangled up in all these different people and tangled with their strings, and some strings were cut, some strings were tied back together. But I had to leave all of those people behind that I called community. And I came here probably right 2018, so shortly before COVID. But because I was pregnant with a little one, I did a lot of time hanging out at home and kind of nesting. And then I had my little one, Christopher. Some of you may have met him. And then COVID happened, and I was kind of left without the pods and the community that everyone had because I was so new here. I didn't have anyone here that my string was tied to just yet. So time went on, hung out, did a little bit of art. And my first two friends here in Stanton are actually in this room. I can't find them. There's one. They're sitting next to each other. My God. So those were my first two friends in Stanton, and they kind of rekindled this faith that you could build community anywhere. You can retie your string to new people. You can untangle your string from that heartache of the people that you've left behind in another city, and you can tie yourself to new people here. And so I think I in meeting these people and learning that there's people outside in the world because we can go out in the world again after COVID, I was reinvigorated, and I actually got a little email from Piper about painting a mural. And it had been a very long time since I had painted, had a kid, COVID. So I was a little unsure of if I was ready to kind of revisit where my string was tied to as far as murals and art go. But I said yes, dove right in there. And that actually led me to that tank in that room. So my pinky is now tied to that tank. And while I was painting that tank, I was in this space, and I met Lee and Ben and Pat. And again, because it had been so long since I had experienced that welcoming community, I was instantly hooked, y'all. Like, just to feel the passion and the excitement and the creativity that they were embedding in this building was infectious. And so, I'm all decked out in my paint clothes, and I'm just, do you guys need any more people to come help build something here? And luckily they took a chance on me. And Lee, I don't know how many of you people have been blessed with the opportunity to meet Lee, but she's a genius, a lovely human, a flower, if you will. She took me under her wing, and she kind of did a little bit of untangling of my red thread, if you will, and it got tangled up in this place. And it is just, don't want to get emotional. Sorry, y'all. Very much a Pisces. I know, right? I will cry. Don't. Okay, don't encourage me. But to be tied to a place like this that believes in building community and creating community and asking people to come with their red strings and create a tapestry of love and excitement and energy and passion, not just about wine, but about, being stewards of the land, about, sharing what you know and sharing that with new people, and again, tying your string to new people. It's so inspiring. And after the last few years that we have all had, it's really lovely to be in a space like this that embraces everyone and wants everyone to come in with their red strings and bring it in and tie it all in together and enjoy some wine too at the same time. So, I think that was all of it. I got a little nervous there, but I think it's good. It's good. Nobody, you don't think they noticed?
No.
Perfect. Okay, I think that's it. I'm gonna pass it over to Ben.
Good morning. Let's see. So I grew up here in the Shenandoah Valley, was born in Stanton, and lived out in western Augusta County. Pretty far out on the river, on the Middle River. Just grew up out in the country, and I had parents that I'd describe as supportive but not directive. And so, I think one of the threads of my life has been, just kind of not realizing there were these things out there. And so, grew up, went to Buffalo Gap, and then left town and went to Duke, which was a big eye-opening experience for me, just because met all sorts of new people. But backing up just a little bit, growing up, I was a shy kid, and so books were my friend, and read a lot, and kind of really was drawn towards things that were big and spectacle-like, those sorts of things. And in high school, was realized that theater was a thing, and that was one of the first things. Was like, okay, this is spectacle, this is really interesting, and I wonder if I could be a part of that. And so kind of kept that with me when I went to college, and was lucky enough to take a playwriting class with a woman that would become my mentor, and just was trying it out, and she's like, hey, if there's something here, you should do it, and helped me lean into the more spectacle side of things, and wrote, more sort of fantastical, not realistic sort of plays. And as I was graduating, didn't really know what to do, and one of the director faculties said, hey, I've read your stuff, you should probably do this summer internship with Bread and Puppet up in Vermont. And didn't know anything about Bread and Puppet, but said, okay, that sounds good. Went and did that, and talking about spectacle and theater and poetry and art and all those sorts of things, they were it. This is inspired by it, and so kind of realized that maybe puppetry was needed to be a part of my theatrical life. And so at that point moved out to San Francisco with the idea that this was a place that I could be pretty creative. Needed a job, so I became a bike messenger. And I figured, hey, I'm gonna be a bike messenger and write plays while I'm in San Francisco. Didn't do as much of the playwriting, did a lot of the bike messenger stuff. It was very good exposure to counterculture and people that just think differently, and sort of, politically interesting, all sorts of stuff, but realized that I was not focusing on playwriting, and so went to Carnegie Mellon for grad school to kind of force myself to do it. It was very good for understanding the pain of forcing yourself to work and discipline and those sorts of things, but a very classical place that in a way, I think they brought me in because I had this interest in spectacle and puppetry, but the curriculum was challenging to kind of insert myself into it. I kind of figured it out. One of the things we did was we did a short play with a director, and we created these two big heads and did a short play with it, and it was fun. But took that forward, and when you're a playwright, you're supposed to move to New York. At least that's what I thought. I did that. Once again, needed a job, and they didn't pay me for playwriting. Never really been paid for playwriting. So I had this kind of burgeoning interest in wine from living in San Francisco, but kind of decided that I was going to try to see if I could get a job doing that. Did that, worked wine retail in New York, and had an amazing mentor who kind of showed me the world of wine. And the world comes to New York to sell their wines, and so it was a very good exposure to that. Fell very hard for wine, fell for like the sort of the detail and the creative elements behind it. Really saw an artistic thread within the wine world, and just decided that this is the way I wanted to get paid money. So really jumped into that. One of my other mentors was like, hey, there's a job out in San Francisco if you want to be closer to the wine culture out there. Took that, worked for an importer, wholesaler, retailer, which was really important because it showed me like the different tiers of the winemaking system, and then met winemakers through that and got invited to do a harvest up in Sonoma County. Loved that work. Growing up, my dad was a builder, a carpenter, and so did a lot of like hands-on work with him, and realized that this kind of took me back to that sort of physical meets a more creative element, and just fell in love with the production of wine and decided this is really the way I'm going to get paid my money. So got a job, worked for about 3.5 years in Sonoma County, and then being from Virginia, just was kind of paying attention to the industry here. It was, honestly, it's still growing. We still have plenty to do, but was at that point of like a very interesting place where foundation is not fully built. You can be a part of building that, and so just started connecting with winemakers and people here, and found a way to come back to Virginia. We had our first daughter, and so we were very far from family. It made sense to come back this way. Started working with Virginia Wine Works with Michael Shaps, and then took a job with Early Mountain where I met Pat. And that was where I think I really was given my first chance at being creative within wine, and sort of working on new ideas for the grape Petit Manseng, working on new ideas for hybrid grapes, those sorts of things. And spent 7 years there, so a very foundational part of my winemaking. But at that time, started working on two things. One was our family project. We have some vines up in Fort Defiance, pretty close to here, and we were making those wines there. But then also a project called Lightwell Survey, which is based mostly in Shenandoah Valley wines, but very, sort of on, I guess you would describe it, the creative, sort of progressive, boundary pushing side of Virginia wine at least. And Early Mountain incubated both of those there. And it was at that time, as Early Mountain was growing into their space and needed more and more space, and I realized as the winemaker that, the Early Mountain wines were more important, that we needed a space kind of like this. And so started talking with my brother and Pat and Lee and some other folks about doing this. Took us a while to get here, but we got here, which brings us to where we are today. And so to weave the thread of where I can use that creative force within what we have here. So as much as you can be with a bottle of wine and understand that there is like this creative part of it, that it can be art, it is a very classical realm. It's dominated by the European notion of sort of nostalgia and looking backwards, as opposed to looking forward. And there's something to be said for that. That's how the American industry became what it is. But I also think that in some ways the American industry, even California, has this complex of imposter complex, I guess, that we can never be as good as Europe. And when you back up and you look at the idea that wine is an agricultural product, it's made from, it's a very simple product, it's fermented from grapes. It is kind of silly to say that the only good wine can be made in one place in the world. And I think around the world, people are proving that that is not the case. It may be true that the grape Pinot Noir is at its best in a small part of France, but there's thousands of other grapes, and wine is a fermented product that can be made everywhere. So I think the idea, pushing back against sort of more classical ideas in wine, is something that's hard to do everywhere, especially in Europe, certainly in California, but a little bit easier here in Virginia because we're not fully established. That said, the way that the Virginia industry has grown and succeeded is by looking at California, looking at France and the way those wines are made, and trying to like imitate them in a way, and getting to a point of quality where we're pretty good. But I think the next step, the next part of our story is finding our identity. And maybe part of that identity is that wine's identity can be different and that it can be actually more creative and about flavors that are different than, just fruit and, the way that industrial wine has gotten the way that grocery store wine tastes. And so I think Virginia can be a part of that. And you see that there's this huge movement on the East Coast of people embracing grapes that people have never heard of, that were maybe bred from genetics that are here in Virginia, and then making really kind of creative boundary-pushing wines with them. And I think this place allows us to do that, and we're also welcoming in other people to do that and just trying to give them a platform and just a place to do that. And that has been very creatively fulfilling for me, and kind of how I think I took all that background in history and brought it here, and with the people here, with Pat, with Roshi, my brother, with Zach and Aaliyah. So we're just excited to push that forward, and then hopefully one day hope to retire into writing plays for puppets.
Yay! Woohoo! Thank you, Ben. All right. For those of you, Chris is waving at me.
Because you're about to ask for questions and I have.
Yes. Chris gets to ask the first question. Roshi, can I ask you to join us back up here? So what we're going to do next is a little Q&A. If you have questions, what should you be pairing with dinner tonight? These people probably know. So why don't you guys come, take a seat, get situated. In the meantime, if you haven't been here, even if you have, after this Q&A session, we're going to do PSA, public service announcements. And because we always have more going on than we have time to announce, we have little cards. If you have an event, an opportunity, you need help, whatever it is, you write it on your little card in a way that Caitlin here can decipher it. Give us all the information on what, when, where to find out more, where to get tickets, so we can gather it all and then send it out afterwards. So, we will hand these out while we do a little Q&A with these wonderful people here. Chris, do you have a question?
Well, I thought, because some people might be new to this building, I know Pat and Ben have talked in the past about the connection between what this building used to be and what it is now, and the thread that binds them, and also what this entire facility is becoming.
Yeah, so it's okay if I sit here?
Yeah.
So it is, yeah, thank you for asking that, Chris, because that's an important part of all of this. So this building is the old Virginia Metal Crafters complex. And the original section, which is on the far end, was built in the early 1900s. The section that we're in the mid-1900s, and then the section Basic City is in the newest section of the facility. But all 140,000 square feet of this complex was home for the better part of 100 years to makers. I mean, this was a space that creatives came every day, and they were physically doing metalwork here, as the name implies. But important enough to Virginia's history, and certainly Waynesboro's history, that it was added to the National Historic Registry of Places, I think back in 2016 or so. And so there is so much of a rich history here of creatives having been in this space, and certainly we are within that same realm now through the medium of beverage, which is exciting for us. But it would be lying if I didn't say that when we came in, that the common thread being apparent to us as we were looking at different facilities and thinking, do we build, do we rent, what's out there, and kind of that lightning bolt when you're walking through and yeah, this is right, and learning about the history of it. So that's absolutely, the Metal Crafters history here is alive and well, and the thread that runs through Commonwealth Crush and all the other businesses here for that matter.
Any other questions?
Yeah, one.
Yes, please.
Who writes the descriptions for the wines you produce? Who does the peppery, chocolate, raspberry? We've always wondered, because we used to work at a brewery and we knew it was a beer called Smack It Like It's Hot. It had habaneros in it, and we threw habanero stuff into it. Yeah, we smack it. So who does that, and how does that work? You're the writer, I guess.
Yeah. So, well, an interesting thing about the way the wines are made here is that I'm not just the winemaker of the wines. There's like Pat gets to work on a wine, I work on a wine, Lee works on a wine, Zach works on a wine. And so it is this interesting thing where the people at Commonwealth kind of collaborate with the winery itself. And so the answer is each of those people has to write their own tasting notes. And I think most of us veer away from just naming flavors, but name sort of inspirations or vibes or feelings or like the kind of reasons for making the wine. Yeah. And those are like, if you can find sort of each of our takes on the website with a description. You have to dig a little bit, but there's little sheets on each one. Yeah.
There's a section that says nerdy wine info, and you can click through and you can read to your heart's content over it. There's a lot on there.
Well, how can we as a community, if we're not growing our own grapes, how can we enjoy, contribute, engage with Commonwealth Crush?
I would say you could come visit us here in the tasting room.
Which is open when?
Which is open Thursdays through Sundays. So it's going to be Thursday from 3 to 9, Friday from 3 to 9, Saturday from 12 to 9, and then Sundays it's a little shorter, it's from 12 to 7.
Okay, great.
I would add, we are working on this concept called Common Salon, and the idea, it's maybe too open-ended. The idea is just to bring some sort of creative or maker, or I mean, you could be a geologist, just someone into the space to be here on. It's generally we've made it the third Thursday of each month, and be here. You invite your community as well. You drink wine. It can be presentational. It can just be a hangout, that sort of thing. But make it a place for people to engage in a different way than just coming into like a tasting room or even a wine bar. So Roche and I are working on 2025 if anyone is interested in being part of that.
I sense a call for artists. Third Thursday, I came. It's a wonderful scene. Everyone's a little tipsy and you listen to music or you make art. Definitely talk to those lovely people before you leave today if you have something you want to share.
And if you know a wine maker or a cider maker, sometimes we combine like a guest maker with an artist. And so if you have a friend that does that, like we'd be happy to push you.
Great, okay. And because they're way too humble to toot their own horn, they're also hosting a sort of farm-to-table dinner tonight in collaboration with Gardener's Harvest, which helped cater one of our first events at Silver Line Theater. And because these are very generous folks, there is a discount code for everyone who came to Creative Mornings today. So there's still a handful of tickets available for tonight.
Four remaining.
4 tickets. So first come, first serve. Check your email from yesterday. Discount code is in there and a link to go buy your ticket. And that is tonight at
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. Okay, so there's that. And then last plug, they also have an awesome wine club. So if you want to be like in the know with what's happening in Virginia wines, go become a wine club member, and then you get also discounts on other things, and you become part of this really beautiful community. So I encourage you all to do that. All right, well, one more round of applause for our host. This has been great. Okay. I have all the things. If you took pictures, videos, and you are on this thing called Instagram, please tag us at CreativeMornings, at CM_SVA. We didn't get to pick this, so I feel the same way as you do about this handle. That's just how it is. But if you tag us, we can reshare it, and it makes our life so much easier. With that being said, a big thank you to Sophie, who has been helping our social media today. If you don't know Sophie yet, I don't know why you don't know about her yet, but she has an absolutely amazing magazine that she produces herself. She's a realtor. She's very creative. She has great content, so go meet her, follow her, do all the things. And beyond that, thank you, Michelle. Everything you ate today was made with love by Wild East, who is opening, I'm like halfway, already announced it, okay. He's opening our own space. She needs all the support, so next time you have an event or you need to feed the family and you want beautiful little pastries, just make sure you go to Wild Yeast and ask her about it. And if after this you go by Hap, tell them thanks for the coffee. You guys are awesome. We love our small businesses, so please support them, especially when the holidays are coming up and Amazon is like pulling you this way, saying no thanks, and go do all this. Okay, stepping down from my soapbox. Public service announcements. We typically have time for about 3. So, first come, first serve. 1. What is going on? Okay, Bree, number 1. Bridget, number 2. Who wants to do the last? And Chris, there we go. Okay, Bree, please start.
Perfect. Hey guys, my name is Bree, and this is coming to you on behalf of myself, and Joa, and Megan Burrows. Okay. So, we're launching something exciting January 2025, which came out of our initiative, Valley Women's Weekend, which we've been putting on for the past couple years. So we're going to be starting Valley Women's Collab, which is an organization and kind of membership community for all women and entrepreneurs in any stage of business. So if you guys want to sign up and be the first to know about the details when that's launching, you can go to valleywomencollab.com or you can go to our Instagram. There's a link to sign up for that.
Lovely. Thank you, Bree and Joa. Megan. Bridget.
Hello. The St. Augusta Art Center currently has Art for Gifts going on, and it's definitely like, I like her shop smile. It's like 70 artists, so many different products, amazing things. So make sure you stop by. It goes from now until December 31st.
Great. Mr. Lessiter.
I'm part of an organization called Stanton Like Business Collective. We had our first cash mob yesterday at Charlotte's Kitchenette in Stanton. That was a great event. If you missed it, you can still go by there and tell them we sent you, and that we promise you will love their food. And then we will have our next one on December the 12th at Treehouse Juice Bar, which is also in Stanton. It is on West Beverly Street, right across from Corners Avenue, above the Little's convenience store. And so we're hoping to have a great turnout for that. We're just trying to help infuse a little bit of cash into those businesses during the holidays and awareness about it.
Can you tell us what a cash mug is, please?
Yeah, so in 2011, there was a blogger and an engineer who wanted to support a wine business in his community. And so he invited all his friends to come out with the hopes that one, it would gain exposure for the thing, but also out of that initial influx of money, that they would also meet a couple of people who would become longtime customers. And so that's what we do. We ask everybody to come at the same time, the same 2-hour span, with the hopes that like it's a big business day for them, but also that they meet engaged people and meet some longtime customers.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris.